watching Dontaesboxingnation.
Did y'all see that shit last night? You only good as your last performance. Did y'all see that shit last night? That shit crazy. Yeah, that's y'all stupid as hell. Y'all stupid as hell. I was trying to fight Canelo, all right?
Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? Man, this is crazy what's going on with Jermall Charlo, because it's starting to sound like the whole Ryan Garcia and Teofimo Lopez situation all over again. The only difference is Jermall Charlo, he would actually have to move up in weight to take on this challenge. But you know, the situation is so weird to me with Jermall Charlo because every time he talks about David Benavidez, he always starts off talking as if he's going to definitely fight him, as if it's going to be an easy fight. And then he always ends the live by saying something that suggests he's not interested in the fight at all. Once again, you heard him talk about how crazy that fight looked, basically implying that David, he looked flawed in that fight against a lesser opponent. But then he ends that live by saying, listen, y'all, I'm trying to fight Canelo. He's responding to fans in the comment section accusing him of ducking, right? And listen, it would be no problem. Once again, it sounds like we're talking about Ryan Garcia right now. Ryan, he kept saying, look, man, I'm trying to fight Tank. I'm trying to fight Manny Pacquiao, right? When they were asking him, why don't you fight Devin Haney? And just like Eddie Hearn said to Ryan Garcia, okay, if you're going to get the Tank fight, if you're going to get the Manny Pacquiao fight, then we can't really complain. But if you're not going to fight those guys, you should be fighting Devin Haney. Same thing applies right here. If Jermall Charlo can get the Canelo Alvarez fight this year, then he wouldn't have to move up to a higher weight class to fight a guy who's going to be naturally bigger than him. I mean, Jermall Charlo, he already knows that Canelo Alvarez is doing his European tour right now. He's not trying to fight any dangerous fighters, not elite dangerous fighters this year. So what is the point of telling fans you're trying to get a Canelo Alvarez fight when you know you can't get that fight? The only road that leads to a Canelo Alvarez fight is a win over David Benavidez. That's the only fight. Now, before Canelo moved up to 168, Jermall Charlo beating Demetrius Andrade would have put more pressure on Canelo to take that fight. Now it's got to be David Benavidez. And what's so crazy is finally even David Benavidez is repeating everything that you guys hear me say. So even he understands the situation. Matter of fact, let me quote what he said right before he beat Ellis. This is what David had to say about Charlo. Quote, he doesn't really have anyone at 160, so it seems like a fight that should be fairly easy to make. I think Charlo makes the most sense because we both need a signature win to get to Canelo. End quote. Yeah, it sounds like David, he's been listening to me because I say that in all of my videos when I talk about this situation with Charlo and David Benavidez. This is one of the only ways they're going to get a fight against Canelo. Either they fight against each other, the winner puts tremendous pressure on Canelo, or one of them looks extremely flawed, meaning they have a terrible performance against one of their opponents, like Billy Joe Saunders did in his last two fights. And you see, once he did that, all of a sudden, he was rewarded a Canelo Alvarez fight. We've already heard David's own father and trainer, Jose Sr., he said the only reason why Canelo is saying that he's not fighting Mexicans anymore is because of my son. This is what Senior said. And that's absolutely true, because we know that if David went in the ring and started looking like an old faded Angulo, or he started to look like a Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., then Canelo Alvarez would be fighting him next. So they're definitely paying attention to what's going on when it comes to the Benavidez's team. Now, when it comes to Jermall Charlo, he seems to be completely oblivious to what's about to happen in the near future with his career and the backlash he's about to receive. See, unfortunately, a lot of these black fighters, they don't pay attention to the racial double standards that exist in the sport of boxing. They don't pay attention to it. This is the reason why you'll see a lot of black fighters They'll usually just repeat whatever they hear is the popular narrative. You know, if people just say Canelo Alvarez is the best, they'll say, hey, man, well, everybody is saying it, so Canelo's the best. They did the same thing when Roman Gonzalez, when old media was saying that Roman Gonzalez was pound for pound the best over Andre Ward. Matter of fact, at the time, Roman hadn't even fought in the States yet. Nobody knew who he was. But it started with Jim Lampley and ESPN. They start saying this guy is pound for pound. Next thing you know, Roy Jones was saying that Roman is pound for pound the best in the world. Floyd Mayweather was saying that Roman is #1, the best fighter in the world. And about 6 months later, Roman ended up getting knocked out. And that's another thing that's crazy, because usually, not all the time, but the majority of times, the guy that old media picks as pound for pound the best fighter in the world is always the first person to lose, or lose by getting knocked out. It happens almost all the time, which is the reason why Canelo Alvarez is taking his European tour right now, because he wants to guarantee that doesn't happen to him. Now, what Jermall Charlo doesn't understand is he doesn't have any hope insurance. So these same fans that's calling him a duck, they're not going to defend him the way they're defending Canelo Alvarez. They're not going to say, who has Jose Benavidez fought? Why does he deserve to fight Jermall Charlo? You know, Jermall Charlo is not even at 168. They're not going to say any of these things. Charlo is not going to get the same type of protection that reporters and fans give Ryan Garcia and Teofimo Lopez. See, Jermall Charlo, he thinks because he has the reputation of being the boogeyman and chasing the Canelo Alvarez fight, fans are just going to let him slide on not fighting David Benavidez because of that. They would only let him slide if he could get the Canelo Alvarez fight. This is what he doesn't understand. You can't just keep telling people, oh, I don't have to fight David because you guys already know me. You know, I've been chasing Canelo for 6 years. So y'all got to give me a pass on this whole David Benavidez mess. Nah, man, it doesn't work that way. You messed up when you mentioned his name. Just like David Benavidez said. You're going to start telling people you're going to break my neck? Well, I'm going to start challenging you. You can't just say you're going to break my neck and then just walk away. It don't work that way. And David was absolutely right when he said that. I mean, everybody knows you can't go on the streets and challenge somebody to a fight, and once they ready to fight you, all of a sudden you say, nah, man, I'm going to give you a pass. I ain't going to fight you. And this is how Jermall Charlo sounds right now. But I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all, because styles make fights. And not saying that David Benavidez had a bad performance, but first of all, let me just say this. It was impressive that David was able to stop a fighter. I believe he hadn't been stopped before, if I'm not mistaken. But I couldn't believe how much punishment Ronald Ellis took. I'm going to tell you guys, I just got to watch the fight because I told you I've been tied up and busy and I had to switch phones, and that's why I couldn't make any videos for the last 2 days. But I was watching the fight and I seen how much punishment that Ellis was taking probably from the 5th round to the 8th round. I mean, this man was getting hit with everything, right? Now, I was working out when I watched it. I was on the elliptical machine, right? And I was watching it. So I got off the elliptical machine like after the 8th round. Man, I came back to watch it. I assumed the punishment he was taking, I assumed that they were about to stop the fight or he was about to get knocked out. I couldn't believe that this man Ellis, he went a whole nother 3 rounds. So to me, things like that alone would give, I would think that would give Jermall Charlo more confidence to move up in weight and fight this guy. If this guy could take all of those punches from David Benavidez, we know Charlo ain't going to even get hit that much. Not only that, but when you see someone like Ronald Ellis, who's clearly not on Jermall Charlo's level, I mean, this was Caleb Plant's sparring partner. He's not even on Caleb Plant's level. This guy, for him to even make the fight competitive when the fight was in the center of the ring, at least in the first 4 rounds, because when he was coming forward and he was fighting in the center of the ring, he was doing really good. But after that, David started to walk him down. And then, all you seen was Ellis constantly backing up and just taking punishment. Once again, when Charlo sees something like that, I'm automatically thinking that's why he's laughing. He's like, look at this guy. This guy's not on my level. This is why it makes no sense. It seems to me, once again, that David Benavidez's style is tailor-made for Jermall Charlo's style. The only thing I could see Jermall Charlo being concerned about is David Benavidez's size, his natural size at a higher weight class. I feel that if they were both at 168, if they were both at 160, there would be no doubt Jermall Charlo would have fought him right away. But the fact that he's going to be in somewhat of a handicap match, I think that's what he's worried about the most. But the fact that Jermall Charlo called out David Benavidez is what puts the pressure on him to take this fight now. Once again, just like David said, if he would have never called out David, then no one would be saying he's avoiding him. But since you called him out and you said that you're willing to fight Canelo Alvarez at 168 or even 175, then that kind of alleviates any excuse to not fight David Benavidez at 168. Sometimes you have to dare to be great. And this is one of those moments right now in Charlo's career where he has to dare to be great. He has to take the risk. He has to take that gamble. He has to go up and he has to fight a bigger guy who's possibly the best fighter in that division. If he truly wants to become one of the biggest stars in the sport of boxing and pound for pound, top 3, one of the best in the world, this is what he has to do. There's no way around it. If he's not going to fight a Demetrius Andrade, if he's not going to fight a David Benavidez, and he's not going to be able to fight any of the other champions at 168 because Canelo has all those champs sold up for the year. So there's nowhere else for Jermall Charlo to go. I'm telling you, man, Jermall, he just doesn't know what's coming. He doesn't know what's coming. I mean, he already got a taste of what's coming from the fans. But wait until the media, old media, gets a hold of him. Man, they're going to go after him, constantly asking questions about David Benavidez. And I'm telling you, man, Jermall is going to be getting so annoyed with the Benavidez questions that he's going to be walking out on interviews. And the crazy thing is, Jermall Charlo, he doesn't even realize this is about to happen. Because, once again, a lot of these black boxers, they don't pay attention to the racial double standards that exist in the sport of boxing. They just look at themselves like, look, man, I'm about to, win my fights and I'm going to get bigger. I'm going to become a superstar. As long as I keep winning, I don't care about nothing else that's going on. But that's the wrong approach. You have to always pay attention to everything that's going on around you. You may think it doesn't pertain to you at that moment, but it definitely pertains to you. Something else, a lot of these black fighters, they automatically think, oh man, as long as I keep winning and I get the big fights, everybody's going to love me. They're going to treat me just like I'm a Canelo, like I'm a Gennady Golovkin, a Teofimo Lopez. They're sadly mistaken. They don't understand. They never understand it until they're dealing with it directly. Jermall has been dealing with a little of it, but he's going to see a lot more once he turns down this David Benavidez fight. You guys just wait. Just watch. When Charlo announces his next opponent, especially if it's not some big name opponent, he's going to be overwhelmed with questions about David Benavidez. And I really don't think he's ready for it. So I don't know if Jermall Charlo is just talking crazy and really he wants the fight, or he's just completely made up his mind that this guy is too big, he's too dangerous being at a higher weight class. I don't know if that's how he feels yet. We will definitely find out after his next fight because, once again, we know he's going to fight around May or June. Now, if we don't hear anything about him fighting David in September or even the beginning of 2022, then he completely avoided David Benavidez. And I'm telling you guys right now, there is nowhere else for Jermall Charlo to go. He just passed out on two great opponents that he could have faced. First, it was Demetrius Andrade. Now it's David Benavidez. And I have to reiterate the point. It would really be shocking to me if Charlo doesn't take this David Benavidez fight because of the styles. After watching this Ellis fight and even watching the Anthony Durrell fight, there's no doubt in my mind that style-wise, David Benavidez is tailor-made for Jermall Charlo. Now, tailor-made doesn't guarantee a win, because once again, it could be David's will and his size versus Jermall Charlo's skill and intelligence. I mean, let's not forget fighters like Deontay Wilder and Rocky Marciano and Julio Cesar Chavez. They beat tons of fighters that were more skilled than they were. But historically, brains often beats brawn, at least 8 out of 10 times. So let's see, man. Let's see. Hopefully Charlo doesn't make the biggest mistake in his career, which is not taking this great opportunity to fight David Benavidez. This David fight opens up all doors for Jermall Charlo. All he has to do is walk through the door. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elodiki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man ScalpCarolinas on Instagram.